Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Market Update, where we discuss leading financial and economic developments in Europe, Asia, and North America. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. And first up, we begin in Europe. EU Home Affairs ministers agreed yesterday, on sweeping new migration rules that will allow member states to detain, deport, and redirect failed asylum seekers to processing hubs outside the bloc. A dramatic tightening of policy that mirrors hardline US immigration measures. The package marks one of the most significant overhauls of Europe's asylum system in decades, signalling a decisive shift toward externalizing migration management. The measures give EU governments a legal basis to strike deals with non-EU countries deemed safe, enabling them to transfer, quote, illegally staying third country nationals, end quote, to offshore return centers. These rules would apply even to families with children, prompting strong condemnation from human rights organizations. Quote, this approach mirrors the harrowing, dehumanizing, and unlawful mass arrests, detention, and deportations in the US, end quote, said Amnesty International. However, with heightened public concern in Europe after years of high migration numbers, the move will likely be politically popular. Some member states have already begun testing the model. The Netherlands recently signed an agreement with Uganda to host rejected asylum seekers, while Italy has opened return centres in Albania. The new EU framework seeks to resolve the legal barriers that previously hampered such arrangements, including rulings from the European Court of Justice against Italy's Albania plan. The reforms also expand the EU's ability to deny entry and impose longer detention periods and home searches for migrants ordered to leave. In a further tightening, and critically for many countries, asylum claims can now be rejected immediately if the applicant could have sought protection in another country en route, or in a non-EU country with which the EU has an asylum processing agreement. This opens the door to Rwanda-style schemes long pursued by Denmark, which led the negotiations under its rotating EU presidency. Quote, it paves the way for enabling member states to establish reception centres outside of Europe, in Africa, for instance, end quote, the Danish migration minister said. The shift, he added, quote, has the potential to change the future of Europe quite dramatically, end quote. Ministers also adopted a bloc-wide list of safe countries, including Egypt, India, Morocco, and Tunisia, enabling faster and potentially easier rejection of claims. Activists warned several listed countries face serious human rights problems, making the designation dangerous and politically motivated. But once again, with many European countries experiencing high levels of migration in recent years, and polling across especially the western part of Europe, suggesting public opinion is that these levels need to be dramatically reduced, it is highly likely that these moves will be politically popular across the continent. The measures must still be negotiated with the European Parliament before taking effect, setting the stage for an intense political battle over the EU's migration future. Next up, the Trump administration has rolled out a long-anticipated $12 billion farm aid package, providing fresh relief for agricultural communities battered by low commodity prices and the fallout from the president's trade war battles. The plan includes up to $11 billion in direct one-time payments under the Department of Agriculture's newly created Farmer Bridge Assistance (FBA) program, with the remainder allocated to crops not covered by the initiative. Farmers earning under $900,000 in adjusted average growth income for the 2022 through 2024 tax years will qualify, with a 19th of December deadline for submitting acreage data used to calculate payments. Rates will be announced by the end of the month, and disbursements are expected no later than February of next year. The announcement comes at a moment of heightened frustration in farm country, where producers have been squeezed by climbing costs and sharply reduced Chinese imports, a result of Beijing's retaliation against Trump's escalating tariffs earlier this year. The US president unveiled the program at a Washington event alongside growers of corn, soybeans, cotton, sorghum, rice, wheat, potatoes, and cattle, joined by Treasury Secretary Bessent and Agriculture Secretary Rollins. The move echoes the president's previous round of trade war farm assistance during his first term, when more than $28 billion was distributed to offset losses from tensions with China. While Chinese soybean purchases have begun to tick up following the October agreement between Trump and General Secretary Xi Jinping, which we covered at the time, including the largest single-day purchase in 2 years, volumes remain well below expectations. So far, China has bought roughly 2.8 million tons of US soybeans since 30th October, far short of the 12 million tons the US says will be purchased by February. Still, administration officials insist China is on track to meet its commitments, with US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer saying Beijing is, quote, about a third, end quote, of the way towards its current season goals. The funding, authorized under the Commodity Credit Cooperation Charter Act and administered by the Farm Service Agency, arrives as crop prices hover near four-year lows, despite recent gains in futures markets. With input costs such as fertilizer rising, many farmers say the aid cannot come soon enough, even as long-term concerns grow that repeated trade disruptions have pushed China to deepen its reliance on Brazil for key commodities, including soybeans. Now, next up, we move to Asia with our last development for today. But just quickly, if you want to continue to be on top of updates like this, through grounded and sober analysis, consider subscribing to Market Update. Hit the bell notification icon and you will be. And if you're getting some value from today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button. And finally for today, Indian airline IndiGo has suffered a spectacular operational breakdown after cancelling thousands of flights over the past week, triggering nationwide chaos and intense political scrutiny. IndiGo, which commands nearly 2/3 of India's domestic market, was brought to a standstill by a sudden cockpit crew shortage triggered by new pilot rest hour rules. Analysts say the crisis was compounded by technical glitches, smog-related delays, and what former executive Shakti Lumba called a, quote, too big to fail mindset, end quote, that left management unprepared for regulatory changes announced nearly 2 years ago. The fallout has been swift. India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation issued show cause notices to the CEO and COO demanding an explanation for what it described as significant lapses. Bodies warned that potential penalties and the mounting financial toll, including refunds, compensation, and operational disruption, could jeopardize IndiGo's senior leadership. For India, the world's most populous country and a rapidly expanding aviation market, the meltdown raises broader questions about the sustainability of growth. Prime Minister Modi has championed mass air travel, envisioning a future in which even low-income individuals board flights routinely. IndiGo, with a record 500 Airbus narrow-body jets on order and new wide-body ambitions, has been central to that vision. But the pilot shortage proved catastrophic, stranding tens of thousands during India's peak wedding and holiday season. At the height of the crisis, IndiGo cancelled half of its 2,200 daily flights. The airline has since increased operations to over 1,800 and issued more than $92 million in refunds. That is a lot for a place like India, while pledging to return to full schedule by mid-December next week. Public anger, however, remains fierce. Social media brimmed with videos of shouting passengers and overwhelmed ground staff. Comedian Vedas blasted the airline's leadership, arguing senior executives, not frontline workers, should face angry crowds. Aviation analyst Neelam Matthews said passengers had been, quote, treated very badly, end quote, adding that IndiGo, quote, dragged its feet on pilot hiring, end quote. The government intervened by pausing the new rest rules and capping fares to prevent price spikes. Pilot groups condemned the rollback, accusing IndiGo of engineering the crisis to pressure regulators. India's opposition leader, Rahul Gandhi, blamed the fiasco on a monopoly model, arguing India needs greater competition in aviation. Shares of InterGlobal Aviation, IndiGo's parent, have tumbled 17% this month to date. Yet analysts at Jefferies say the carrier will remain dominant, not because it is unscathed, but because India's aviation ecosystem leaves the country with, as Matthews puts it, no alternatives. Okay, that is today's episode of Market Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a good Tuesday, and I hope to see you for the next update, which will either be tomorrow or on Thursday.